If you look at this slide, you'll see that the Dover sole resembles an oval in shape. I see a lot of things as shapes, and if you notice, the face is rounded, the tail is rounded. It's like a circle that's been stretched out. So we like to refer to the sole family as ovals back in Hyde Park. There's two types of sole. The true Dover sole, the Solea solea, the one in the top picture, is from European waters, sometimes called a European sole, a Dover sole, an English sole. They're really small fish, about a pound, pound and a half. They have a dorsal fin that extends the length of their body, an anal fin that extends the length of their body. They have loose-fitting skin, so if you fast forward through the modules and you get to my fabrication videos, you'll notice that we peel them before we fabricate them. It just makes it easier, and that market form would then become pan-dressed. They have small eyes characteristically. They're a right-eyed fish, so if it was swimming away from you with its gut cavity pointed down, the pigmented side would be on its right-hand side. It's a nice, very nice flavored fish with a very firm consistency. There are a lot of flatfish which tend to be soft, but this one holds up really well, has a nice buttery flavor. And beneath it, we have the American version of what we call the Dover sole, which really isn't truly a Dover sole because it's more of a diamond shape. It's got a pointy face, comes up to pointed dorsal and anal fins, but nonetheless we call it a Dover sole domestically. Here we have the winter flounder. In the East Coast, this fish will have many names. It's more of a diamond shape for starters. It's got a pointy face, the back of its tail is pointy, the dorsal and anal fin come to points. If you were to swim this away from you, hold it by the tail and swim it away from you with those pelvic fins and stomach cavity on the bottom, you would notice that the pigment's on its right. We sometimes refer to it as a blackback flounder. It's the darkest flounder without any markings. If you go to Massachusetts, the Georges Bank, very popular fish there. Usually the locals refer to it as their own fish, Georges Bank flounder. You could see it called a lemon sole. That's a marketing technique when the fish is over 3.5 pounds, and the quarter fillets each weigh 8 ounces or more. Like all flat fish, it's low activity. We do a flat knife cut. As opposed to the Dover sole, this one's soft. Soft's a nice way to say it to your customers. If you were in my classroom, I would tell you it was mushy. But some people like that, right? People like mashed potatoes too, so don't feel bad. Has all the same cooking attributes as the Dover sole. Very popular. You'll see quite a few of them on campus. The summer flounder, or the fluke, is very similar to the winter flounder in shape and size, except it's a left-eyed fish. It's commonly referred to as fluke in the New York, New Jersey area. A lot of people go fishing for them in the summertime when they come close to the shoreline for spawning. This fish is a lot firmer than the winter flounder. Doesn't happen to just be a left-eyed winter flounder. It's actually its own species. But a beautiful fish for crudo, beautiful fish for sashimi, really nice fish for sautéing, nice sea-like briny flavor, really special. The witch flounder is a local fish to the northeast. Like all flatfish, it's got the long continuous dorsal and anal. The easiest way to identify this fish is if you look in the bottom picture, you see the nice brown eye side, but the blind side, or the non-pigmented side, has a shade of gray. So many people refer to this as gray sole, usually caught off of New Hampshire, Cape Cod, Maine, Georges Bank. We see it quite a bit in Hyde Park. They tend to be fairly small. They're very expensive, but it's got a nice firm consistency and a rich mineral flavor. The turbos, or turbits as they're alternately pronounced, are more of a disc-shaped fish. If you can see the picture on the top, it's almost as if you trim the fins off that fish. It would be the same shape as that circle. Turbos are farmed and wild. They're saltwater fish. It's an interesting fish because one of our market form checks or freshness checks was scales adhere tightly to the body. This fish doesn't have scales, but if you rub your fingers over the pigmented side, it's really bumpy, and we call those bony protrusions. They're a lovely fish, usually farmed off of the Mediterranean as well as Chilean coasts. For flatfish, it's prized because of its firm, rich flavor. Right? Most flatfish are not firm. This one is, and it's a low activity fish, which traditionally would tell you that it's not super flavorful, but this one really is. So it's really prized for it. Quite nice. There's a lovely farm in Spain that provides us with a lot of them in the New York campus. So you will taste this fish on day 2 of fabrication. The yellowtail flounder, local to New York in the Northeast, is a small fish. If you notice the picture on the top, it's a diamond shape, it's right-eyed, it's got some light spots on its body, and it gets its name, if you turn it over, it looks like someone almost took a highlighter pen and traced around the back third of the fish and the tail, thus the name yellowtail. It's very nice. It's generally regarded as a benchmark of the species, benchmark being the standard that all items are compared against, and it's been said that it's a benchmark because it's the whitest flesh. Now, as a student understanding activity levels, that would probably tell you that it doesn't move much because it doesn't have a lot of hemoglobin or myoglobin from the low activity. It's also going to be very mild in flavor. So some people like that. If someone says they want a fish that is not fishy tasting, well, this is a great one for you. For those of you out there that are aspiring to work on the West Coast one day, here's a true sole. If you notice, it's got oval face, extended body. It's a right-eyed fish, like all soles are. The Rex sole. There's nothing wrong with this fish in the picture. It looks like it dried out a little before they put it on the light box and took the pictures of it. That's why the fins look a little rough. But you'll see Rex sole on menus in California, Oregon, Washington, all the way up through British Columbia. It's a very nice fish. We do not fabricate them on the New York campus, but I just want to put this out there. If you're in California or you aspire to work out there one day and you see it, that's what it's going to look like. Another West Coast fish is the petrale sole. That's pronounced pa-trale. I know it looks like petrale. This fish is very similar to our winter flounder on the East Coast. It is not a sole. Just remember, soles are oval shapes, and if you look at this picture, it's very diamond. So it's a California, Oregon, Washington, really, really nice fish. It's a little bit firmer than our winter flounder, but it's as close as it's going to get. Halibut have 2 species. There are Pacific halibut and there are Atlantic halibut. We get whatever we can at school. The picture on the bottom, you'll see I put a halibut on a sheet pan, and you can see that's a Pacific halibut, easily identifiable by its white spots on the dark body. They are the largest of all flatfish, and they are farmed and wild. The one you see down below is a wild fish that came to us from Alaska. Market size, we want 10 to 15 pounds, but just so you know, the adults average 300 to 400. And you can get a lot of portions out of a 300-pound fish. There's no doubt about it, but there's no one who could pick up a 300-pound halibut. It would be ridiculous. So we spec out 10 to 15 pounds, and that's going to take about 8 to 10 years old to get to that size. So if you're looking at the fish in the hand on the top, and you notice there's 2 eyeballs there, we know that fish is around 6 months old. And then on that sheet pan, you're looking at a fish that's, just under 3 feet long, and it took 8 to 10 years to get that size. So some species are very slow to grow. Their activity level is still low because it's a flatfish, but out of all the low activity flatfish, I would say they have the highest, which gives them the highest flavor. They also would have the highest omega oil count of any flatfish. Don't delude yourself and think that it's, going to be super flavorful, but if anything is meatier and firmer than the rest of the flatfish, this is the one. Here's a collection of pictures that I thought was fun just to show you exactly why we're not bringing in 300 to 400 pound fish. The halibut on the left is 413 pounds. The halibut on the right, 272. You can see the difference between the 2 fishermen. One is respecting the fish and hanging it by its mouth, and the other is hanging it by its tail. So if you look at the flesh on the one on the right-hand side, you can see it's getting ripply because it's separating because of the way it's hung. The one on the left was a sport tournament, and this guy, Jim Johnson, did not bleed it out. So I want to call attention to the fact that you see all that red. We refer to that in the fish industry as blushing. And he kept the blood in there so it would weigh more. And in fact, it was a world record on 80-pound test. But the issue is going to be the meat's going to be colored, discolored, stronger in flavor. It's going to rot faster. he perhaps could have bled the fish after the photograph and after the official weigh-in and recovered it a little bit. But if you direct your attention to the middle of the slide, you got those halibut on that dock being offloaded, and you notice there's a slit in each tail. Those fish were bled right away, which one will kill them, but two help drain the blood and keep the meat fresher. You'll notice as they're offloading the boat that they're putting them pigment side down, because we talked about that with storage on day one, that's the heavier side. Also, the white side reflects the sun instead of attracts the energy. So until they can get them from boat to dock and dock to truck and then off to the cooler, at least they're doing the best they can.